We've been on a path of destruction for some time now. Some people will argue, well, it started 5 years ago. Some people may even argue this started after World War II, or even some scholars may say during the Vietnam War. Heck, the assassination of JFK. Well, we've been in turbulent times, but as of the last 10 to 12 years, we've been visibly seeing more and more turbulent times. We've been actually feeling the turbulent times. We've been actually sensing, heck, we could smell the turbulent times that we're going into and that we've been facing, right? A lot of people were asleep 10, 12, 15 years ago when a lot of this concoction started to mix, right? It's like an alchemist pouring and testing out and grasping at straws to figure out this the stone, the philosopher's stone, changing lead into gold and or whatnot, and trying to figure things out and be ahead of the curve. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people just don't understand the whole premise of it. And once people start to realize that the whole world is a stage, and it goes back to what we've been talking about, and there's a pile of NPCs, non-player contacts, or non-player, whatever they call them. We've been talking about that for over a decade now, or 12, 15 years on the channel. And once people start to realize, I call them fill. They're fills. They fill slots. Or the NPCs, I call them interferers, because they interfere with us on a day-to-day basis to help us adjust our life experience, right? It's almost like that movie with Jim Carrey, where he's, the whole life is a stage, and that's how it is on a grand scale of things. When it comes to countries and continents, and it actually, the more you zoom out, the more you see, the more you can perceive on a bigger scale, on a grander scale. Now, I got a few messages of people complaining, Mike, you're not exposing Trudeau enough, you're not doing this enough, you're not talking about the mass exoduses, you're not talking about the rent hikes. Yeah, we did. It's on the channel 5, 10 years ago. We warned you guys about the food. We warned you guys about all this stuff. Now, I want to make this video to actually discuss how this is supposed to be happening. It's supposed to be. This is part of the plan. Now, you guys are saying, well, we should be rising up and... Okay. If Justin Trudeau is not, or whatever, I'm using Justin Trudeau or Biden or Macron. If they're not, they are in a position where they have to fulfill and they have to bring about certain events and they have to say certain things and they have to basically play their part. They have to do this stuff. Now, if one of these leaders, for example, or any world leader, wasn't supposed to be doing what they were supposed to be doing, why weren't they taken out immediately? Oh, they get voted back in? No. They get selected back in, folks. And that's just how it is. When we called the snap election 9 months before, during a pandemic, and I said they're going to call a snap election and the Liberals are going to win. And they did. Right? I bring back that video often because I really want to prove to you guys that a lot of this stuff that's being brought in could have been prevented. When? In 2010. Right? In 2010, if people went to jail, if the investor or money launderer or criminal went to jail for crimes that if I was to commit the same crime that somebody else would go to jail for, then we wouldn't be in this situation anymore. What am I talking about? Well, the incredible amounts of money laundering that came in, and we've been covering it, maybe 700 videos on our channel, covering the money laundering that started in 2010 in Vancouver with the Vancouver model. The Vancouver model basically stated during the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver that bring your money, we don't care where you got it from. This allowed a lot of Chinese criminals and people with a lot of money that wanted to move their money offshore and park it in Canadian real estate. Canadian real estate was due for a correction in 2010 because the average home was already 6 to 10 times the annual income. So we were due for a correction in 2010, and we were covering that on our previous channel before it got terminated in 2012. But I got close in 2012. I got real close. I got super close. So, okay, so the money laundering came in. What did it do? Well, it created artificial shortages across the country. It started in Vancouver mainly, and then once Vancouver put the foreign buyers tax, investors went to Seattle and Toronto and destroyed both housing markets overnight in 2016, 2017. Completely destroyed housing markets overnight because our politicians sold us out to the highest bidder. Now, why do I bring up the money laundering point at 2010? Why is that a very specific point? Because if I came into Canada to launder money and buy homes and leave them empty and create artificial shortages, I would go to jail for it. They would seize my assets, they would put me on the front page, they would make me an example, and they would show, look at more money laundering in Canada, you can't do this. I would be made an example of, right? People laundering money, selling the fentanyl from the Chinese factories that we covered. Fentanyl coming from Chinese factories being brought into Canada, and videos are 7, 8 years old, they're up on the channel still, where they take the money and then they reinvest it into real estate and just buy up farmlands, real estate, all kinds of condos. And that created this massive artificial shortage. And it was happening all over Europe. It was happening in Ireland. We did Ireland is Dying due to money laundering and CCP takeover. We did the same thing with Australia. We have 300-400 videos for Australia, 300-400 videos. This was the precipice of the downfall. Because if we actually followed the laws that were put in place against us, and it was put in place against them, let me tell you something. We wouldn't have to have this carbon tax wars. Heck, they wouldn't even have to pull the trigger on the pandemic. Because wages need to be in line with real estate. And if wages are not in line with real estate, then real estate crashes and people reset. But we never did that. We just kept lowering rates artificially. We kept lowering rates for the average Canadian proper, Australian proper, New Zealand proper, UK proper to compete with money launderers. And that basically destroyed us. All of where we're at, the Ukraine war, all this stuff that's happening all over the world is all money laundering. It's all criminals unloading money into assets and creating artificial shortages. Now, don't you think that if Trudeau, he should have been taken out a long time ago from his position. He should have been taken out from his position. He should have stepped down 8, 7, 6, whatever. His first year, he should have stepped down. But no, he is in place. Well, somebody's coming in. Well, no, it doesn't matter, right? How does that somebody coming in going to fix it? Well, they're like, picture this. Someone's pointing a gun at you and saying, I want $1,000 for your taxes. No. And you say, no, I want $1,000 for your taxes. No. I want $1,000 for your taxes. No. Okay, give me $800. All right, here's the $800. You got a deal now. I'll give you $800. That's what they're doing to us. And I wish that we could have been more awake in 2010 because we wouldn't be in this financial mess that we're in with derivative markets, banking institutions crumbling. We have covered this front to back with the mass exoduses, but we were doing it in more of a predictive model. People will be leaving London, or there will be this, they'll pull the trigger on a pandemic, they'll be doing this, they'll be doing that. We've been more, price of food, what's happening with food, can't afford food. I have videos from 8 years ago saying by 2020 or 2022, people will be bought out of food. So you see what I'm trying to inject or say here, right? So, another biggest misconception, I'm going to throw something out there for you guys. Another big misconception that we have is we as humans are confusing consciousness with awareness. Keep that in mind, folks. So, I just wanted to let you know, we wouldn't have to be in these carbon tax wars, which we predicted 6 years ago. The food haul videos I made 5 years ago, warning people, look at the price of food, guys, look at yogurt, and I'm showing you guys how much it's gone up. Nobody cared. They care now, because the problem has arrived. The money laundering, maybe in 2027, 2028, may be addressed. The vacant homes, 1 out of 5 homes, I think, in the Commonwealth are empty. In the blue states of America, I think 3 out of 5 homes are empty. In condos, like whatever, farm, whatever, is empty. And until we could actually get to this and actually address the real problems that were brought in originally, imagine we actually could have addressed the problems and actually put people in prison and prosecuted them for breaking the law 10, 12 years ago. We couldn't, because the politicians were in on it. All the politicians were getting a kickback. Every single one of them. Right? So that's where we're at right now. And this is why humanity needs to kind of zoom it out, take a perspective from space and a view from space, and see the bigger picture. Right? A lot of people are hurting right now. A lot of people are losing things. They're losing things. They over leveraged. They use their homes as ATM machines, believing that real estate will keep going up forever and ever. Amen. A lot of people believed in a lot of these things. Those products were put in place by the banks to let you in to buy a home in your own country to compete with money launderers. Because housing should not be nowhere near. Housing is 79% overvalued right across the board. Why, Mike? And next year, housing will be 80, 90% overvalued. Why is that, Mike? Well, they're going to keep raising taxes. So the more you pay in tax, the less disposable income. Never mind the disposable income, the less living income you have. So you get where I'm going with this, folks. So housing should be going down in price drastically because they're taxing us to death. Remember that trends in the housing market we did back in 2015? You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And if you do own, they're going to tax you to death. And if you don't, you're renting, you're free, but they're still going to raise your rent because they're going to raise taxes on the landlords and stuff and have to pass it on to the renter. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So basically the criminals are the ones that are benefiting from everything. But there will be a shift. Like we said, 8 years, 7, 5, 4, we told you this. There's a shift coming. Governments are grasping at straws. They're looking for the next distraction. And that's what they got planned. What's the next distraction? Is it like this is something we bring up on Mike in the Night. Join us every Saturday night for Mike in the Night, 6 p.m. Pacific time on Mike in the Nights. Join us. Call into the show. It's a call-in show. Call in after I do headlines. And let's discuss. You know, we do more of a predictive model. We go over headlines. We connect the dots with the headlines, figuring out where they're moving us next, where the chessboard's moving, and trying to kind of, have the playbook, so to say. We talked about this playbook 10 years ago, having their playbook and figuring out what their next move is. That's what we've been doing for so many years now. I'll leave you guys a link below to the last Mike in the Night, if that's okay. And if you guys want to kind of skim through it and listen to it, and listen to our callers. We got 2 or 3 first-time callers on the show. It was fantastic. And that's what I'm looking for more. More first-time callers and more people to come on to give us their, opinions, perspectives on what's happening across the Commonwealth. All the English-speaking world has been under attack, and it's been under attack for the longest time, and they want to take it all from us. They want to take away what we work for. They want to take away our happiness. They want to take away our spirituality. They want to take away everything that basically they feel that we shouldn't have. And it's been a war on our minds for years. It's all information, and it's the controlled information distribution we've been talking about here on this channel. Who's going to get to say what? Who's going to be allowed to usher in the truth, so to say, even though the truth doesn't matter 10 years from now when the problem could have been fixed 20 years ago. So it's like bringing in something we already know. And that's what all these new influencers, all these post-COVID influencers are coming out with and kind of putting that out there and creating this hero persona because they're allowed to. There's a lot of things we're not allowed to say on this platform, on a lot of platforms, that we will be removed from. And that's just how it is. And I like to paraphrase and talk around things. But, yeah. And I'll also leave a link below to the last Mike of the Night to a playlist of Mike of the Night episodes. It's an entire playlist. I'm moving over episodes as when I get time. I'm moving over. I got to think 140 or 160, I don't know, episodes already. Go back and listen to some of the old stuff. Go back and listen to some, like, what was now becoming news today. Anyways, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I would appreciate your feedback on this one. And if you can, share this video. I've been doing this for so long now that it's that I hope it reaches the right people. And I hope people understand. Zoom it out. Take it from a different perspective. Mend family. Mend the family. Mend the family. Bring the family back together. Stop this divide. Love one another. Mike Martins here. I have spoken.